Dr. J.
And by the way, this is not bourbon, but that's what it says on the cup.
I don't care. This is not Sunwheel, but that's what it says on the cup.
I got it when I was in Kentucky.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Why not? You're gonna have to start because I'm not sure what to say about parenting as a Gen Xer.
Well, I mean, you're a Gen Xer. You're a parent.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, that's it. It's parenting as a Gen Xer. It's one of the and I'll go ahead. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm not doing the intro anymore because we're not part of a episodic thing anymore. This is like, welcome to the rest of your life.
That's how long it's going to feel like as you watch this. The blind guy just talks and talks and talks.
So I read an article last year when I was revising that humanities talk that I do about Gen X music, 90s rock.
Yes.
And the article was talking about Gen X helicopter parents. And the problem, and the problem with the fact that these kids are going to college. And she gives all these different reasons why, as a generation, we lean towards this helicopter style of parenting that our parents didn't have. And it was largely because we had the highest divorce rate of any generation before or since.
Are you serious?
Yeah. We have the highest working moms percentage, like per capita, than any generation before or since. So the structure of the home, and of course, we were the latchkey generation. You know, so you add all those factors in, and when we got to be parents, we did the exact opposite because we did not want the same fate to fall on our children. Now, I'm speaking as a generation. This is not every single case, obviously.
Right. So you're saying that our parents' generation divorced more.
Yes.
And we were living in single homes more.
Yes.
And that's affected us in a way that we don't parent the way our parents did.
Right.
I would agree with that. So, okay, now I actually can talk about stuff. That's
there you
good.
go.
Keep going.
See, I told you, I get it out of you.
There's something else that's changed, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
And I'm proof of it.
Okay.
So keep going. Do your thing, and then we'll
do the thing.
You were telling me about the article.
Well, yeah, and she was just talking about, one of the interesting things about Gen Xers coming into midlife is we have been, as a generation, we have largely been helicopter parents, and these kids are leaving, and it's affecting us in a completely different way than it did our parents. Our parents were like, okay, we did our job. Now it's time for them to figure it out. With us, we want to make sure that they don't fail. I'm actually running into this with my current wife and my ex-wife and their anxieties about Luke going to college. And I have anxiety I'm going to college too, but not at the level that they have.
Your current one?
Yeah. Yeah, both Lauren and my first wife both have anxiety over Luke going to college because it's the natural fear that he's going to starve. And my response is, let him starve. He'll figure out how to get food.
Yeah.
Because
it's a very,
yeah. I mean, so,
a boomer mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what I had to do. I had to figure it out,
Oh, dude, my dad told me, he said, when you turn 18, you got to go somewhere. I don't care where, but as soon as you graduate high school, you're out. He knew that I was going to go into college.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to give me the option to stick around because he was worried, I think, that I would get sedentary.
Yeah. Well, I think all of our parents felt that way. Plus, I think they were probably exhausted one of the thing, and this is not a fault of the boomer generation, but one of the problems with the 80s is this idea of over excess and how you have to achieve as much material wealth as possible. And so they really killed themselves at work. And I'm sure a lot of the mentality when we got to the point where we were getting ready to leave home was, thank God they're leaving. We don't have to pay for that anymore.
Were you the one who told me that Gen X is the first generation to make less than their parents?
Yes.
I think that's the other reason why.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have the means to buy our children's love.
Yeah.
Well, we have to rely on other techniques.
Well, yeah. Look at the student debt crisis. It's mostly millennials. Millennials come from the older Gen Xers.
Oh, you could do an entire episode on how millennials are now screwed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They've been screwed for a while, and it's only going to get worse.
Yep. Did you see the Crystal and Sager thing where she talked about the millennials being economically just destroyed?
Well, I mean, imagine this year you're graduating college.
Yeah.
Now what? Mm-hmm. What job are you possibly going to get?
Yeah.
Seriously. So where are you going to go? You're going to go home.
Which a lot of millennials have been doing anyway.
They don't have a choice. You can't possibly pay rent. And I realize we're off topic, but who cares at this point? You can't possibly pay rent and bills and those ridiculous ass student loans.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
You can't do it all.
Well, add to that the idea of the Gen Xers being helicopter parents. They're bringing them back in with open arms, saying, yes, you can come home. It's not a problem, because it reaffirms that original fear that when they were raising them,
Yeah. Well, I'm not too worried about mine. I'm not a helicopter parent at all. I'm one of the things that we taught our oldest and we're teaching our youngest now is how to be not just independent, mm-hmm. but fiercely so.
Yeah.
I mean, try and teaching a 5-year-old, okay, you're old enough to make your own sandwich now.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that, but I'm like, you understand that you need to be as independent as possible, because the less you have to rely on other people, the more you can do for yourself when you want it.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to wait on somebody else to do it in their own good time, you can do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Once he began to realize the benefit of, well, I want a sandwich now and Dad said he's too busy, I'll just make it myself. Freedom. But in terms of how we're different, I can't speak for women.
Yeah.
I can, however, tell you, I think that men are different fathers than their fathers.
Well, yeah, we're a little bit more sensitive.
Well, we're more sensitive, but I think even more than that, we're more involved.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, but I think if you look at the model of what the American man is supposed to be, and you can look at my father and me as examples of it, I guess. He is the quintessential. Well, he was the quintessential boomer father. He was the provider. He went to work. He was at work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. He was extraordinarily successful as a businessman, as a VP. And he made ends meet and then some. He was making 6 figures.
Yeah.
And there were some years where he was getting a 100% bonus on his paycheck.
Wow.
He was very good at it.
Yeah.
But he was the breadwinner. He was the provider. And when I got in trouble, which thankfully wasn't too often, he was the disciplinarian. Mm-hmm. And he loved me. And he was very proud of me. But like a lot of boomer dads, he never said those words to me much. In fact, he'd get on a plane and talk the other person's ear off next to him about how great his kid was. And he never really told me that much.
Yeah.
Which is a traditional boomer mentality.
Yeah.
Love your child, but love him quietly. Mm-hmm. Your job is to bring home the money, to feed your family, and to make sure your kid turns out to be a good person. And the best way you can do that is to discipline them when they need to be disciplined. Mm-hmm. That was my growing up, and I'm very grateful for it. He was very good to me.
Yeah.
But it's a different mentality.
Yeah.
His hero was John Wayne, to give you an idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was the same thing with my stepdad. It was John Wayne, any kind of Western.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love Westerns, but that was kind of what people he looked up to.
Mm-hmm.
These hard, rugged men. And if you look at baby boomer men, they're not apt to cry. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
We, on the other, wept that Kurt Cobain died. Gen X men are more apt to show their emotions. You said they're more sensitive.
Yes.
And I think that's accurate. And I think because we make less money, we also had to expand our repertoire in terms of what it meant to be a father.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are a lot of Gen X men who don't make the lion's share of the money.
Right.
Or if they do, it's the discrepancy between their paycheck and their spouse's paycheck or partner's paycheck isn't as great as it would have been for our parents.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I think we're less concerned with our work. I think the moniker slacker generation is not entirely inaccurate. We don't define ourselves by our jobs, I don't think, nearly as much as our parents did.
No, we don't.
What is that flashing, by the way, before we go on? What is it?
What flashing?
I see a flashing light every once in a while. Maybe I'm having an episode or something. I don't know. It looks like it's coming off your computer monitor.
Oh. I mean, I had to check my internet signal. It was telling me my internet signal was slow, and I just checked it. But maybe that's what it was, where I minimized it and then came back.
I think we also spend more time with our kids.
Okay.
I do.
Well, we figured out the flashing thing. Our kids are great.
That's all I need. I just making sure I'm not about to have a seizure, man. It's like not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I know, but
Woo. No,
yeah, we do spend a lot more time with our kids than our parents did. That's for sure.
But again, it's the slacker generation thing. We don't define ourselves entirely by our jobs. Whereas people like my father, if you asked him what he did, he would probably not say he was a father. If you asked him what he did, he would say, "I'm a VP at Waste Industries." Mm-hmm. Because he was all about his work. He was a workaholic.
Yeah.
Whereas the slacker generation, we're not surprisingly not defined by our job. We tend to, and I don't know if it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. We define ourselves maybe by our friendships, our relationships, and our families.
Well, do you remember my old Facebook tag before I got married to Lauren? It was reader, writer, smoker, dad. Nothing about my occupation. It was just reader, writer, smoker, dad. The things that I do.
Yeah.
Right.
If someone were to ask me what I did, I would probably tell them I'm a poet rather than say, "Oh, I teach English."
Yeah.
Not that that's not important, but I don't think we define ourselves in quite the same way.
By the career.
And millennials are going to do it even more than we do.
Yeah.
Because they define themselves by what they do during their free time. Rather than saying, "This is my job."
Yeah.
I think we're going to see that happen more and more. If for no other reason, they're not going to have a job. What possible job can you get in COVID-19 America?
They're all going to be writing apps. They're all going to be making an app.
I don't know. How different do you think you are from your folks in terms of the way you raise kids?
As far as how I raised my children, I used a lot more psychology than my parents did. Everything was very black and white with my parents. Now, I still, I did not spare the rod. But I haven't had to
Excellent.
spank anybody in a while. I think I spanked Jupiter several months ago, and that was the first time in years that I had spanked a child. So, because, you know, one of the things that I understood from watching what happened to me was the spanking became ineffective with me at a certain age. And so my mother adapted. And I tell people, I've even told my children this, the worst punishment I ever got. And that woman beat the crap out of me when I was a kid, but in a good way. Okay. I deserved every beating. Okay.
Love you, Mom.
Yeah. I love you, Mom. But the worst thing she ever did to me, I was about, I think I was about 9 or 10 years old. My uncle had just bought me my first real record player, not the little plastic Fisher Price crap. You know what I'm talking about? The one with
Real
the
turn.
lid, but an actual bona fide record player. And I had you would call them a boom box back then, but it was basically just a little shelf unit, right? But it didn't have a record player. That's why I got the record player. And I cannot remember what I did and how and what kind of trouble I was in, but she took that stereo and that brand new record player, and we had these French doors into this one room of our house, and she stuck it right on the other side of that French door where I could see it. And every day I walked by that door, I saw that stereo knowing I couldn't touch it. That was the worst punishment she ever had. It was torture.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So, and I learned little things like that I watched my mother do when I got to the age where spanking was not working. She started coming up with different ways to punish me. Now, that's psychological, but I added like several other layers to it from the get-go when my kids were little, you know, especially the boys.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, you know, if I wanted them to clean their room, I gave them a specified amount of time. If they didn't get it done in that specified amount of time, whatever was left on the floor, I collected and put up on a high shelf where they could see it. And they had to earn all those toys back one at a time. And that was torture for them. And we're talking about, you know, 5 to 7 years old when that happened. We used to have a rule when Sarah and I were together that if I stepped on a Matchbox car, it got thrown away. And they didn't believe me until the first time I stepped on a Matchbox car and they saw me chuck it in the trash. And I never had a problem with Matchbox cars on the floor again. So, I mean, it was different things like that. The difference I call it, or just trying to think of, okay, how am I going to get to that kid's brain? Not just straight up, okay, he did wrong, I'm going to destroy him. You know, it was, how am I going to get him to stop this pattern? And there's more to it. You know, spanking was basically held for the most egregious crimes, you know, like when I love to tell the story of when Ezra bit his mom. She was trying to get him to take a bath and he wouldn't do it. And he was about 5 years old. And the mistake he made was he didn't do it in secrecy. He just ran straight in right in front of me and clamped down on her thigh. And I spanked him from the bathroom into his bedroom. And then once she got calmed down and he started to calm down, I took him in there and made him take a bath. So, but those are the kinds of, that's what got you a spanking, you know? So that and lying, that was the other one. I didn't, you know, so, but now, especially with the boys being teenagers, you have to come up with some really ingenious ways to get their attention. And most of the time with the boys, as old as they are, it's a way of embarrassing them. That's what gets their attention. Not being mean or cruel or anything like that, but just finding a way to embarrass them enough that they won't repeat that action. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are effective ways to do this without being inhumane and cruel. you know?
I agree.
So, but that's the difference. Whereas with my parents, it was, you know, you did wrong and now we're going to beat you. You know? I don't know how many times my mother, I was actually telling somebody about this the other, I think it was my daughter. I was telling her about how fast my mother can slap somebody. And it's not just one, she comes back. It's like, pow, pow. It's the quickest hand in the West, buddy. She would get me, and I deserved it. I'm not gonna lie. But I think that's as far as discipline. Now, the other thing is with my parents. My parents were hardworking. Neither one of them had a college education. My mother started when she got out of high school. She started as a bank teller, and she worked in finance and banking for years and years and years. And then she ended up going to this business school for about 6 weeks, I think, and got a certificate to do coding for the medical field. And that's how she finished out her career. My stepdad was a mechanic. He was he could do all kinds of things with his hands, you know. He's one of those people. I've told people he probably can't anymore because he's gotten so old, but he used to be able to listen to your car, just listen to it. He could tell you, pinpoint exactly what was wrong, you know, why that rattle is doing what it is, and nail it. He could tear down an engine and put it back together in no time. It was just amazing to see him watch him work on a car. So they were very down to earth, very blue collar people, and very religious and very conservative. And so when I come along, because my real father, my natural father, was an intellect. When I come along and I've got these artistic persuasions, and my stepdad doesn't understand that because it doesn't make money. Art doesn't make money. You're not going to get anything out of it. You need to work. We clashed a lot because my personality is be creative and do these creative things because you can, not because it gets you money. And
you're Gen X. I mean, that's kind of not uncommon.
Well, I mean, how many TV shows and movies did we watch growing up that had that message? It was ingrained in us. We're, the other nickname that we're called is the MTV generation. All we did was watch these rock stars day in and day out, living a lifestyle that was just fantasy for us, but it was also tangible. So I'm probably going to get in trouble for talking about how I beat my child.
I wouldn't hear about it. With ours, I mean, I would say that raising them, I didn't really have to spank my children, but timeout was worse for them than anything else.
Yeah.
You sit there and then losing privileges. You're not going to get to play any video games for the next 7 days.
Yeah.
So suck it, right?
Yeah.
It would just absolutely devastate them. Like, oh my God.
When Jupiter was about 4 years old and I was living over at Steeplechase, she pitched a fit so bad. She had this huge temper tantrum. And she's laid out in the middle of the hall just screaming and hollering. And I had to get by her. So I literally just walked over her and kept going. And she finally stopped. The other thing with her that it never occurred to me to use with the boys, because the boys wouldn't try to manipulate me with tears. And that's the thing girls try to do. If they're not throwing a temper tantrum, they're trying to cry their way out of it. So what I would do is make her go stand in the corner. And I'd tell her, go work it out. And she'd go to the corner and she'd stand there for like 2 minutes. And she'd be fine. She'd come back, all the tears are gone.
My 8-year-old does that. He'll cry.
Yeah.
He doesn't get his way. And we're like, you can cry, buddy. That's fine. You just can't do it here.
Yeah.
Go to your room. Get it out of your system, and when you're done, you can come back downstairs and talk to us.
Yeah.
We're not going to watch it. With my 16-year-old, when he was very small, he and my wife were in Walmart together. He wanted something. She said no. He threw himself on the floor and proceeded to have a tantrum. And she said, "See ya." And she went left the aisle and went down the next aisle. And when he finally realized that no one was paying attention to him, he got up, walked right behind her, and was fine. He never did it again because he realized that didn't work.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Why aren't you giving in? And then he realized, I guess it's not going to work anymore. So I'm not going to do that anymore.
Well, only one, and this was probably my crowning achievement as a father, was this one night or one afternoon, I made Luke so mad. He stomped his foot and he said, "I hate you." And I laughed at him. I was like, sure you do. None of the three have tried it since. Now,
it doesn't work.
Now, remember, the girl is only 9, so she hasn't hit that prepubescent and then puberty level of angst yet. So,
well, some never do,
yeah.
Right? Some kids don't. I mean, Jacob, my 16-year-old, he's never rebelled. He's never been difficult.
Yeah.
He's been great for 16 years. People ask, like, how did you do it? I just say, prolonged physical abuse. And I say, no, actually, kidding. He kind of came out that way.
Yeah.
I think kids just kind of come out that way.
Well, and they can also change. Ezra came out, he was awful as a child. I mean, he was just mean, and now he's very docile. He's got great manners. He's got great etiquette. Something happened in the middle school years and he started to calm down. I don't know. It was probably chemical. He just really started to calm down.
Well, clearly we learned a lot from our parents on how to parent.
We did.
So how are we different?
We're not as black and white.
Well, think about your relationship with your children too, how you talk to them.
Yeah.
The time you spend with them.
That's the other thing. Like I talk to my sons and my sons talk to me in ways that I never talk to my stepdad or mom. Never. We have conversations I would have never dreamed of having with my parents. And I'm not talking about sexually explicit or anything like that. It's just like, my sons and I can sit there and talk about Star Wars for hours.
This is not something your parents would have done with you.
No.
Mine either. And
the whole conversation with my parents would have been, how much do you like Star Wars? Oh, I love it. I really, we don't care. You don't have to go that far. Just how much do you like it? And that's it. That's the breadth of the conversation. Because my stepdad always said, children are meant to be seen, not heard.
Well, my dad's response would be, okay, so you really like it. What would you like?
Yeah.
What is that toy, the Millennium Eagle? Is that what you want? We can get you that. Or something like that. It's like,
here's a toy. Go play with it and leave me alone.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't recall, as my father and I started having the kind of conversations I have with my 16-year-old and 8-year-old, we started having those conversations after I'd grown up.
Yeah. Left
the house. He and I had a fairly, he loved me. Okay. He's passed away, but so it sounds like I'm being critical. I'm not. I'm just being as honest as I can be because the topic is how we're different.
Yeah.
From our folks. We weren't close until I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
We started drinking together in my 20s, and we would have honest conversations then. Because, there are times I had so much alcohol with that man.
Yeah.
He had a hollow leg, and I would try to stay up with him, drink for drink.
Yeah.
keep ordering them and I keep drinking them. And he's like, "Are you sure you don't need to stop?" I'm like, "I'm good." And then I'd wake up 10 hours later. Where am I? Oh, I'm on my dad's couch. Okay. But we didn't start having a lot of conversations like what you're describing until I was a father.
Yeah.
And that was when I was 28, 29, into my 30s.
Well, I think for their generation, that's the moment you become equal.
Yes.
They don't think of us being equal. I mean, even now, like, and I'm sure you were telling me about your mom being sick and how stubborn she is and that kind of thing. I'm sure you've had the exact same conversations I've had with my mother. And like, you're getting older. Stop thinking you know better, because you don't.
You become the parent when they get that old.
Yeah. And then the response from my mother is, "I'm not your child." I'm like, "You might as well be." You're being stubborn.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to do the same thing, and it's because we don't. We don't.
Just hope we don't become as racist as they do.
Well, I didn't want to say that.
I'll say it because the boomers are becoming more and more racist as they get older, and it's just scary, man.
All lives matter.
Yeah.
If I hear that again, I swear to God.
What, the all lives matter thing?
I hate it so much. I'm like, it's obviously you're confused because it's missing the adverb also.
Yeah.
Okay, what they're saying is Black Lives Matter too.
Yeah.
But the people who don't like it aren't clever enough to work out that that's implied.
Yeah.
I saw, and again, this is off topic, but I saw this meme. It's Jesus on doing the Sermon on the Mount. And he said, "Blessed are the poor." And someone in the audience screamed, "Blessed are all people." And then there's a third panel with him just looking like, I don't know if that puts it in perspective. Probably not.
To them, because to them that would be blasphemous.
I'll be curious to see what I'm like with my kids when they have kids.
Yeah. Yeah,
because I can be a very harsh.
That's the next crucial stage in this journey, isn't it? The grandparenthood.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got a while before that happens, and I think with my 16-year-old, I don't think it ever will. He does not like children. Children love him. He just does not like children. He loves his brother. He does, but his brother drives him up a wall.
Okay, so how much of that is children and how much of it is brothers?
All children.
Right.
All children drive him nuts. But he also hasn't had a girlfriend and doesn't want one.
Right.
He doesn't want one.
You know, the odd thing is with, I'm not going to go we're not going to go down that route. Okay, here's another part of being a parent to these kids, okay? So, my parents would rib me when I was a kid about girls, right? But I think one of the things about our generation that is really different from them when it comes to relationships is that we are, as a generation, more acceptable of whatever type of relationship our child wants to try. Whether we agree with it or not, we're a little bit more temporal about it, or you know what I'm saying, than the boomers were. And it's funny because the other day I was thinking about this, and for some reason, do you remember when Kurt Cobain was on the cover of the Advocate?
Yeah.
You remember that?
It's a big deal.
It was a huge deal. And he said, and when people asked him, "Why did you do it?" He said, "Why not? They're buying our records too. Why are we?"
It's acceptance, yeah.
Yeah. Why are we singling them out? Why aren't we bringing them in as well? And we were the first generation to see it in that perspective. Because before that, it was very militant. Even if you supported it, you had to be militant about it because there was so much pushback. Whereas when we had Kurt on The Advocate and his response to the reporters by saying, why not? Why is this so hard? Well, nobody had ever thought of it that way. And so I think with our generation, because we saw him do that, we saw other celebrities do it, because, we were still pretty young when Ellen came out.
Yep.
Now it was a big deal about that. I remember going to, I was in college when that happened. And the question was, what's the big deal? Okay, so she's gay. Who cares?
Well, the new problem in terms of what society's having trouble with is transgender issues. And our kids could not care less.
No, they can't. They don't care.
The number of kids who, whether they say it out loud or not, would call themselves gender fluid. They just don't see it as an issue.
Yeah.
And if you see one of them talking to another one and one says, I'm gender fluid, the other's like, cool.
Okay.
Want some pizza? It's like they're not going to actually have a conversation about it, because it's just like saying, I'm wearing a red shirt today. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Pizza?
Yeah.
I mean, it's healthy. It's healthy. And I do think that our generation maybe struggles with it in the same way that boomers probably struggled with the idea of homosexuality.
Yeah.
As being so open, so out in the open.
Yeah.
It's not like they weren't gay baby boomers.
Right.
They had to hide it. They had to hide it either because they had lavender marriages, or they were living with someone who was their friend.
Yeah.
Two male bachelors living in the same house together. Friends.
Yes.
And you would hear that kind of language all the time. So I don't know. I see a lot of differences between the way I think about being a parent and the way my father thought about being a parent.
Yeah.
And the way my mother thought about being a parent. My mother was a nurturer.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's. Obviously you need that in a home, but I think the difference is for our parents, the gender roles. Talking about being fluid, but the gender roles were so fixed. Men were disciplinarians, women were nurturers.
Yeah.
And never the twain shall meet, ever. And I think if you look at most fathers now, they're both. If you look at most mothers now, they're both.
Yeah.
I nurture my kids all the time. When one of my kids is crying, I'm going to sit down with them and help them out.
Well, and this is not a shot at women, but when I was dating, even when I was dating in my early 20s, I did not date a lot of girls who knew how to cook. Girls from our generation rejected that.
Yeah.
They rejected that stereotype of Susie Homemaker.
They didn't want what their parents had. They didn't want to be their moms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted to be more independent. It wasn't that they were looking for men that could do all the housework for them. They were looking for a man who would complete them emotionally. And I've talked about this several times with all kinds of different people, but I learned how to cook with my first wife. She didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to cook. Between the two of us, we could make like 3 dishes. And we taught each other how to cook.
Yeah.
And that was probably the best education as far as food goes that I've ever had, was just me and her trying to figure it out because we didn't know what we were doing. And now I'm a pretty good cook because of that.
Yep.
So that was, years of practice. But then the 2 women after that, subsequently after that first marriage, they weren't cooks either. So now I find myself in the role of being the house cook.
I can't cook. And I think that makes me, because I grew up in a household where men didn't learn to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was outside working on the farm with my dad, and my mom would clean the house and cook.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't done. A man wouldn't cook.
Yeah.
A man would also not go to the grocery store.
Oh,
But now if you walk into a grocery store, how many Gen X men do you see shopping for their families?
a lot of them.
A lot of them.
A lot.
But can you honestly see the baby boomer who actually is married and has kids, a male baby boomer, going to the store? His wife won't allow it.
Well, here's the thing. If he is going to the store, he has a specific list of 3 things.
Yes.
And he better just get those 3 things, and that's it.
The wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're shopping. We're doing a lot more than we're doing. Men are performing roles that never performed before.
Yeah. But so are women.
So are women. Men aren't just disciplinarians anymore. Men aren't just men aren't simply disciplinarians anymore. They're not simply breadwinners anymore. They're doing all the same things that women have done, and women are now doing all the same things that men have done, so that the idea of what a father is and a mother is, they're kind of similar. Instead of talking about what fathers and mothers are, we now just simply talk about what a parent is.
Yeah.
Because we're doing it all. My wife and I don't actually do different things for our kids, except for the whole driving part.
Yeah.
Our relationships are a little different with our kids, but they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But she's a disciplinarian and a nurturer. I'm a disciplinarian and a nurturer.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing the exact same stuff. So the idea of what fatherhood is and what motherhood is, these terms are being challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't honestly say that my wife and I are actually different in terms of the way we perform our roles in this marriage.
Right.
I would even say the idea of husband and wife have been challenged, because the only thing that makes me the husband is the fact that I have testicles.
Well, and I think that's what it's come down to, that those terms are just denoting in a heterosexual marriage, because that's also, our generation has seen heterosexual marriage become not the norm.
That's right.
Right? So, but in a heterosexual marriage, when you're talking about husband and wife, you're denoting which one is the actual male and which one is the actual functioning female. But as far as the roles go, you're right. Our generation is very fluid. And I would argue that the older millennials are even more fluid.
Sure.
Because it's the older millennials that fought for paternal leave.
Well, how many of them aren't getting married either?
Yeah. That's the younger ones.
I mean, we're seeing, well, I told you, my 16-year-old has no desire to have a girlfriend.
That's Z.
He's perfectly happy. These letters are out of control. What's the next going to be? Alpha?
I don't know. Gen A?
Because there's nothing after Z, okay? I hate to tell people.
I guess they just start over. It's a Mayan thing.
Gen Naught 1.
Yeah.
Gen Naught 2.
Gen Naught 2. No, I guess we go to the negatives. Gen negative. Yeah.
Minus A. No. I don't know. I see. I do think while I think at least I'm accepting of a lot of these changes, I still have to get my kids to teach me about them.
Yeah.
Because it can be confusing. So I did this multicultural education in the classroom training, and I'm glad I did. And one of the things that was talked about is what pronoun your students want to use. And obviously I understand now what this means, but when I first heard about it, I'm like, I don't understand. So, I mean, my assumption was, okay, so someone is either he or she, and one of our friends' child came out to her as non-binary. Mm-hmm. So the pronoun the child wanted is they. And it got me thinking, maybe I need to start thinking about this in the classroom. But this just never occurred to me as an idea. I had no problem with it. I just never thought about it as being a possibility.
Yeah.
Whereas our children don't have to think about it at all because it's just a part of their daily norm.
Mm-hmm.
They go to school with kids who are gender fluid. They go to school with kids who are non-binary.
Yeah.
And they're kind of just open to it. Right. So I guess I'm starting to feel my age because now I feel like I'm living in a very foreign place.
Yes. Which is why we're talking about the midlife. Because we're getting to that point where the world is not what it was.
No.
And we're starting to get into that age as a generation where the familiar things that we know and understand as the world that we have been learning about for years and years and years, those things are going away.
Yes.
And we're not as young as we used to be, so we can't learn the new ways as quickly.
No. And you understand, I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. I had no problem with the non-binary. I think it's great.
Right. No, it's just it came out of left field for us as a generation.
It took me a while. Yeah, to figure this out. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
They?
Well, the one that tripped me up, the thing that, okay, so the pronoun thing, at first it kind of like took me aback for a second, but then I'm like, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. We're good. It's the cis stuff that they're talking about, like cis, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's terminology and it's complex.
Yeah.
And mind you, the generation that actually planted the seeds for it are gender theorists who are boomers and Gen Xers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, millennials aren't the ones who planted those seeds, as ironic as that is.
Yeah.
I mean, thank Gen X and boomers for coming up with this, because Judith Butler, I'm pretty sure, is in her 60s.
Yeah.
She's one of the proponents of queer theory and gender theory, and she's responsible for a lot of the terminology that we think of now.
Well, who was the big one in the 60s? Literature. Or theory,
as in literary
theory. She was feminist theory.
Kristeva?
No.
Irigaray?
The one who argued that women's minds think on a complex, in a complex, in an architectural way that is opposite to the male.
Oh, I have no idea.
Who was that? I remember reading her in grad school. I'm not a big fan of her, but her theory is very fun and very interesting.
It's not. Is it
Bell
Sisu?
Hooks.
Bell Hooks.
Yeah, Bell Hooks.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah.
She's a lot of fun. I haven't read it though. I don't know that piece.
Yeah, basically the core of her argument is that women think the whole way that women's thinking is structured is opposite of men's way of the way we think, right? But because we live in a patriarchal society, the entire society is built on a man's way of thinking, and that's why women struggle naturally in this environment, because it's not built on how they think.
Phallocentrism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phallocentric versus gynocentric.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, Bell Hooks. I knew it'd hit me. I kept thinking, I knew it had something to do with Bell, but I kept going back to the Bell jar, and I'm like, no. That's Plath. But yeah, Bell Hooks.
I as far as what it means to be a middle-aged parent, a middle-aged Gen X parent, I found it hard not to communicate with my kids, because I've actually found it easier to communicate with them than I found it to communicate with my own father.
Yeah.
But it's exciting because they're so different from me in some pretty significant ways that I have a lot to learn. But I can imagine this is not necessarily not as fun for all Gen X parents.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm an educator and I like learning new stuff makes this acceptable to me. But I can imagine not necessarily being as interested in that and being freaked out by it.
Right.
Like that sense that the world is passing me by.
Yeah.
You know, it also helps to be, to be a writer who does experimental work, because I'm constantly looking for the new cutting edge of writing. So I'm excited about the new.
Yeah.
But the new is also kind of scary. And I feel like I feel like as much as I want to learn, I feel like there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up. That at some point I'm just going to have to say, I don't know, whatever pronoun you want is great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to be able to keep up with all the changes. It's not going to happen.
No. And I think that's one of the things that the boomers are struggling with at their age. And we're probably going to struggle with the same thing, is this idea that at some point you're going to outlive the system. It's not going to be pretty, and it's going to be hard, and you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless we are willing to ride the wave.
I think even then,
if you're not resistant
think about the thought processes. One of the biggest things is, like, when I was a kid, my stepdad taught me how to work on electronics, right? And then, fast forward 20 years, and he brings me this, 1936 radio that he's had for 15. And he can't get it to work, and I've got it working within the first 10 minutes of it being in my house. And all I did was apply what he had taught me.
Yeah.
So it's not that he was too dumb. It's that information was left behind long ago.
Yeah.
It was discarded because he didn't need it anymore. At some point, he didn't need it, so he discarded it.
Boomers struggling with technology doesn't make them dumb.
No.
It's well out of the range of their experience. Yeah, I know.
That's the crazy thing when we jump all over them for, why? What do you mean you can't work a smartphone? It's pictures, but it's the fact that they've gotten to a point where they're, over years and years and years of just living life, fundamental understandings of different things have been jettisoned because they didn't need it. I think it's just natural evolution. And we're going to end up that way. I don't know that way.
I don't know if it'll be as frightening for us. I don't know that we'll be as frightened by it.
Yeah.
Because we grew up without the technology and we adapted.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll be, at least we can ride the wave.
Well, I think what's cool with us, with our generation, that's unique to our generation, that's not unique to the boomers or the millennials or the Z kids, is that the primary technology today that's driving everything, we were evolving and we were growing, maturing as it matured. And so it went lockstep with us. And I think that's one of the unique things about our generation above all the other generations, where we were the first ones to get to play with it because we were growing with it.
Yeah. I would say that's accurate, but so much of it we didn't have at the ready.
Right.
We were the last generation we were born. I was born the same year as the personal computer.
Yeah.
Or was it after? Was it 1975 or 76?
It was 75.
Yeah, and I was born, I was born in 75, the same year it was born. I had video games. I had an Atari.
Yeah. Oh, we all had 2600, baby.
Oh yeah, Frogger. My favorite game was Frogger.
Yeah,
I love Frogger. But I recall having to go outside, and I recall having to make long-term plans with my friends for 3 days from now. Having to make phone calls, and even in the 90s and the early 2000s, I was still mailing letters to my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, because we were living in 2 different states. You want to talk about writing a eulogy, or an elegy for the love letter, because it's dead. It's dead, and I think this is where I start sounding like I'm out of touch with today's youth. But I tell them, you don't understand.
No, but they have something different.
They do, but
because and this is where my advantage of being in the dating pool recently gives me a leg up on you, because I understand. Yes, the love letter is gone, and the length of the love letter is probably what is going to be missed. But what has been replaced with that, or what that has been replaced with, is waking up and looking at the phone, and you see just the one line, thinking of you, or good morning, or what you're doing. The feeling that you get from that one little text is not comparable to the love letter, but it's the same feeling, just not on the same level.
Yeah, but what's missing is what makes that person individual.
Yeah.
So no one has the same handwriting as my wife, and no one smells like my wife.
Right.
And those 2 things you have in a letter.
Yeah.
So you can smell, because women used to perfume their letters.
Well, just the paper.
Yes.
The paper would absorb whatever's in their room.
Yes.
Whether they would spray it or not. And I remember, like, Jenny she wouldn't spray her stuff, but you could, as soon as it opened up, you could smell her dorm room.
And that's powerful. And that's what we're missing. And I think I sound like an older person by saying this is a significant loss, because your handwriting does not look like a font on your phone.
Yeah.
And when you write something by hand, you're leaving a physical artifact of yourself behind.
Yeah.
That you just can't get with Cambria or Arial or Courier or whatever font you happen to be using on your phone, or Helvetica or whatever. And that's a significant difference. But yeah, the power of technology means I don't have to wait 3 or 4 days for the letter to arrive.
Yeah.
And I can hear from that person. And now I can call people rather than having to send them letters, because long distance doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I had to explain to my kids what long distance meant. They're like, what's that?
Yeah. I miss 1-800-COLLECT.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah.
Or calling somebody collect and doing, who can I say is calling? I won't be home till 11. Will you accept a call from I won't be home until 11? No. Okay, thanks. Bye. Click.
Clever.
Yeah.
Clever.
So, I mean,
Clever.
so many people did that back in the day. But, my mom got smart because AT&T came out with a phone card. And that's what I got when I was in high school. She gave me a phone card so I could use it any payphone.
You talk about how we're different. I mean, when we were growing up, we didn't have car seats. We just crawled around the back seat of the car.
I actually told my students about this. My mom had a Pinto station wagon, and I have memories of being in the back of that station wagon looking at the front of a truck.
It's crazy. Or I remember riding down the road in the bed of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
As like an 8-year-old.
Do you remember? Yeah. Do you remember when they made it law to have a seatbelt on, and the uproar?
Oh,
People
God.
were so mad. Did you tell me how to ride my car?
Now I wouldn't dare let my kids get in the car without buckling their seatbelts.
Yeah.
Even though we grew up when dashboards on cars used to be metal. You're talking about an honest to God death trap. Like the car, I swear to God, was designed to kill you. Now, everything's plastic.
Yeah.
They have airbag curtains.
Yeah.
and we buckle up.
Mm-hmm.
We are more afraid for our children's lives. I think our parents honestly believed, well, if he lives, great.
Okay.
If not, it clearly wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. Do you want to know here's the clear difference between our parents' regard to us and our regard to our children. Go watch The Goonies and count how many times those kids are on a main road on their bikes, not on the sidewalk, on the road without knee pads, shoulder pads, elbow pads, wrist pads, or a helmet.
And more and no adult supervision.
None. They're just gone.
Yep. That's what I
and
did.
Our children don't go out the door without a helmet on.
Actually, our kids don't go out the door. I mean, with mine, it's like you can play in the backyard that's fenced off as long as the dog is with you. You cannot play in the front yard because I don't want you to be abducted.
Yeah. And there's the difference. My mother told me, she said, if somebody pulls up and offers you candy, run. Okay. No problem. Our mentality is you're not going to have to worry about that because we're going to be up your butt the whole time. We're going to be right there with you. We will deal with the scary candy man. You want to talk about the different, there's the differences, right? But I think it goes back to what I was talking about at the very beginning with that article. This idea that as a generation, we felt abandoned by our parents, and so we're overcompensating. We want to make sure.
The latchkey thing did a number on us.
It did.
But the world does feel somehow less safe. But I don't know if that's real or imagined.
And that's the thing. There is a really great Adam Ruins Everything about security. And he does at the end of the episode, he does the numbers. And it's actually, and the reality is that we are no less safe now than we were 20 years ago.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion. And where does that illusion come from? Social media, national media, the internet. We have the difference between now and 1985. The big difference is we have unlimited access to so many different stories that the narrative that we have in our mind is so off base from reality.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That we're somehow afraid of what doesn't exist.
Yeah. Stranger danger was one of the worst things to ever happen.
I agree with that too. McGruff the crime dog also had a tendency to scare the bejesus out of you.
Yeah. More than Smokey.
Well, Smokey is like, just don't light a fire. I mean, go to the woods and have a good time, but don't light a fire.
If you do, I'll eat you.
Yeah. Smokey will kill you. But I don't know. And as weird as it is, your parents, and to give you an idea of kind of where I lived, your parents always talk about how when they were kids, you could leave the door unlocked.
Yeah.
When I was living in Oxford, Mississippi, and my friend Lewis wasn't home, I would just walk into his house and grab a beer and hang out in his office because he left the door unlocked.
Yeah.
I didn't lock my door when I was there.
Yeah.
Ever. And now when I go back to visit my friends, they wouldn't dare leave their door unlocked. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah. My boys live way up there, towards the line, towards the Virginia line. It's a different world up there. And so I have to remind them every so often, not all the time, but every so often, I have to remind them, you deadbolt that door, whether you're coming in or going out. This is Greensboro. You don't mess with that shit down here.
You ain't in Surrey anymore.
Yeah. No,
Or Stokes.
There's
Stokes.
Yep.
I mean, there are places in the country where you can still do that.
There are. My mother lives in a place like that, although she is old and scared to death, and so she doesn't.
Al Qaeda's going to break into the house at any minute.
ISIS. It was ISIS.
Oh, sorry, ISIS.
They're coming to Pilot.
What are they going to do? Blow up the giant nipple on top of the mountain?
I swear to God, I hope that Fox News is gone by the time we reach their age.
Oh, Jesus. I think Fox News' days are probably numbered.
Oh, don't. Yeah, we said that about CNN around 2000.
I can see cable news sticking around for a while, but you understand, this is the other difference. I think we're having trouble keeping up with our kids, is that we still watch TV.
Yeah,
and they just really don't. Like, the appeal to having your local stations is not something they care about.
Right.
So I think cable news for Gen Z is in trouble.
Yeah.
Across the board.
I think you're right.
I just hope the newspapers make a comeback. Because they are reading their news. They're not watching their news. They are reading their news.
I don't think the print edition is going to make a comeback, but I think the local newspapers are going to morph into this digital realm that we haven't thought of yet.
I think they're already doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm encouraged by the fact that our children are reading, not watching, reading the news.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll start listening to the news on NPR because now they live stream everything.
Yeah.
So maybe they're going to get their news there, but I don't think Fox News, MSNBC, I think after Gen X is done, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah.
I think they're in big trouble because we're the last generation that kind of openly identifies with watching television.
It's true.
And even we're not doing it as much.
No, we're not.
But we do like things like Hulu Live, so I can watch my soccer game on this channel. Whereas they're kind of moving away from that.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that makes the world seem so foreign, is that if you were to tell us when we were kids that you would be able to watch movies anytime you wanted, any movie you wanted, we would look at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense to us. How would you, or you will no longer need cassettes, or then you will no longer need CDs. Instead, you'll have these things called MP3s.
Yeah.
And you'll just listen to them anytime you want and download them. We'd probably say, what's downloading?
Yeah.
You know, what do these words mean that you say? So I don't know. I think
we
we're
didn't even have RPGs. When we talk, I love it when my kids talk about, well, yeah, this RPG. It takes me a minute. Every time it takes me like, what are they talking about? We didn't have role-playing games.
No. Well, the only one we had one. We had D&D. Where you actually had real dice. I swear to God, dude, my 16-year-old and his friends play D&D, and they play it online, and they use virtual dice.
Yeah, my 17-year-old does the same thing. Yeah. They play it online. Everything's
virtual dice?
Yeah.
A part of the fun was actually collecting the dice.
Jason, stop while you're ahead before you're too much.
It's true. And this from the same kid who hates digital books.
Yeah.
He wants a hard copy of everything, but he thinks digital dice are okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Ezra's going through this analog thing right now. I gave him my old 4-track tape recording thing. And so, of course, he's going around to all the Goodwills and finding blank cassettes. I'm like, dude, that's great that you're finding these cassettes. Get a digital version first and then put it on cassette, because that cassette ain't going to last that long.
They don't know. Oh, and make sure he has a pencil.
Yeah, I know.
And always have the pencil, because you don't know what's going to happen to that cassette. I mean, you know, your Tesla cassette might get ruined. You need a pencil just in case.
All right. I think this is a good one for the first extended length. What do you think?
I mean, you know.
Good?
I'm good.
All right. We will do this again next week. Everybody, big thanks to Dr. J, the Optic Poet. We'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Now it's time for Dr. J.